If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello there, and welcome back to The Disconnected. I'm here with Ryan Luis Rodrigues, which first, got to say, I love that little lower third that you made.
Yeah, that's the last time I was on. I was doing a movie riff with Down in Front, and that's what they put in for my name, and I'm like, you know what? I can't pick anything better. That's fine. So it just automatically populated when I logged on here, and I was just like, yep, that fits. That works for me.
StreamYard remembers you forever. For those that don't recognize the name, the big reason I wanted Ryan on is to discuss the One Track Mind podcast because it aligns so much with everything I love. I mean, obviously with my background, there's physical media everywhere in this room, and you highlight one of the most important reasons to discuss physical media. So can you tell us in like your elevator pitch about what the podcast is about?
Yes, it is. We talk about movies through the prism of their audio commentaries. Because I think that without audio commentaries, I don't think podcasting would exist. I think that that is the embryonic stage, is people talking in front of a microphone, laying out the reasons what they did, why they did. And it's the fun part is inviting people on and then them picking movies that mean something to them. And then learning something about the movie that they never knew because of that commentary. So it's rewarding not just for the audience, but I think for the people that participate with it as well. Like you, I believe you did After Hours, and that was first time you watched the movie. So I'm glad we get to introduce people to things, and that's the big joy of doing this podcast.
And the episodes go in lots of ways that people are not expecting, covering random films from art house to some of the most funny commentaries of all time, like Tropic Thunder, to pretty much everything in between. From
Mallrats to The Love Witch.
Mallrats, two very, very different films on that front.
Yes.
The podcast, how long has it been going on?
Well, I've been, the podcast that gave birth to it was back in October of 2018. But One Track Mind started in earnest, I believe, September of 2022. So we're coming up on 2 years. And if that seems like a lot to the audience, believe me, it seems like a lot to me as well.
Well, and the big thing is it's a lot of audio commentaries. There's not many people, even those that are deep in physical media, really spend as much time listening to audio commentaries as you would do over 2 years of doing a podcast like that. So what are, we're going to talk about like favorite commentaries and stuff later. What are some of the more like exciting things you've learned from some of these commentaries over the last couple of years?
Ooh, good question. Well, to bring up The Love Witch again, that is a movie that I absolutely adore. It was chosen by my girlfriend to be on the show. And I was like, okay, fine, but you have to introduce it. And she did. And just learning how they made something on such a small budget look so evocative of an era that is long past. To learn everything that Anna Biller did to reference the erotic thrillers of the 70s and 60s, and kind of the cinematographic ways that she enacted her vision. One of those things where you sit down, you think you know a movie, and then you sit down for 2 hours with the creators and you realize you didn't know anything. And now you do.
That's one of those movies that you watch it and you feel like it had to have been made much earlier than it was.
Yes.
No matter what scene you're looking at, you can just take a single snapshot, and whatever you're guessing, it's probably going to be way off compared to when it actually came out.
And then somebody pulls out a cell phone, and you're like, "What the hell? What's going on here?"
I will say, for me, coming on the show was a blast. Like you had already alluded to, I did After Hours, and there was a reason I wanted to watch it. Last year was like the year of After Hours. Seems like everybody's reappraising it. It got this 4K UHD release from Criterion, and I dove in, watched the film, and then did the commentary pretty quickly after. But just the lens of approaching it, of being able to discuss the commentary itself with someone else, is an interesting way to watch the film, because you're kind of two steps removed at that point, because you're going to be discussing somebody discussing the film. And that, do you feel like that leads to an interesting sort of way for you to identify what makes a good commentary?
Yes, absolutely. I think that there have been maybe one or two movies that we've covered on the show so far that where the commentary was lacking. Like when I had Jordan Morris on to do King Kong, I realized that I learned a lot more about the film through the documentary that's on the Blu-ray. I think it's called The Eighth Wonder of the World, I believe. And it's one of those things where you realize when you watch the documentary and compare it to the commentary, and the commentary is lacking, it makes you realize how hard it is to actually do a good commentary. That it seems like it's second nature because it's just a person parked in front of a microphone. Again, just like podcasts. It seems like it's easy to do, but to make it compelling and to keep your attention for 2 hours is not nearly as easy as it seems. And we barely hold the audience's attention at 35 minutes on the podcast. So I can only imagine what talking for 2 hours would do.
There are, some commentaries I've helped edit recently where somebody's just, some of the funnier moments, they're like in awe of the movie they're watching that they've already seen 8 times, and they just sort of clam up for a few minutes. And as somebody editing it to be on the disc, my whole thought is like, come on, we got people listening. What are you doing? Start talking. Commentaries, yes, shockingly difficult, and I'm sure you've gotten this question many times, but top 3 films, if you had the opportunity to record a commentary for a disc tomorrow, what are they going to be?
The one that I've always wanted to do the most is Return of the Jedi. And even though that's not to say that there isn't a good commentary out there, the George Lucas commentary that is on the Blu-ray is great, because Lucas is so reserved when it comes to describing anything that he likes or anything that he brings to a movie, and just sitting there like, and then I told them the Ewoks are better than Wookiees because Wookiees are technologically advanced and Ewoks are not. That's why when Ewoks win, it's really a victory. It's like, thank you, George. But and somebody who's actually on that commentary, Carrie Fisher, the late Carrie Fisher, my bipolar princess, I've always wanted to sit down and just talk with her candidly about Star Wars. And what more original Star Wars can you get more candid about than Return of the Jedi? The one that not everybody loves. The one that everybody acknowledges, yes, it's good, but I have my issues with it. I would love to get into a time machine and go back and talk with her about. So, you were on how many drugs when you made this scene? That's outstanding. Thank you, Carrie. But that'll unfortunately never happen. But that's one that I've always wanted to do.
That brings up a thought that I've had about commentaries for a while, which knowing your expertise, I would love to see if you agree, because I felt for years there are 2 types of movies that lend itself really well for commentaries. Those that are made that are excellent, incredible masterpieces, and those that are made that are trashterpieces, absolutely awful films. Those middling films are sometimes very difficult to talk about for a full running time, because it's like, yeah, it's just kind of an average movie. Let's discuss this, random drama for 2 hours. No, like there's not a lot there, but the piece that is a film that was falling apart every day on scene, and you see that as it came out on the film, that's one that's going to tell a lot of stories.
No, absolutely. It really is. It's what's the word I'm looking for? It's a spectrum. Yeah. There's really the closer you get to the middle, the more opportunity there is for you just to sit there in front of the microphone and go, But if something is terrible, it's like a car wreck. You can't look away. You have to keep noticing things and keep on going, oh my God, this and this. And then something that's great, then you have something like Roger Ebert discussing Citizen Kane, which is just like, how can this get better? And then it turns out it's Roger Ebert. It can get better.
The way that you can discuss some of these highbrow films, I have been appreciative for years over how many of these commentaries feel like film school to me. Yes. That's some of the way that I've pitched many of these box sets that have come out from not only Criterion at this point, where there's countless boutique labels that are doing as good as, if not better work than Criterion, but Criterion arguably is the one that started this entire thing. So when you're looking at these, is there one commentary that maybe you feel like you've learned the most from about filmmaking?
Ooh, that's a good question. Actually, you know what? The one that really stuck out in my mind is one of the first that really hooked me as a viewer, and that is Steven Soderbergh's Out of Sight. Where
great movie.
It's a masterpiece, probably my favorite film of his, and just the sheer amount of how he was willing to explain his references and explain his inspirations and how they influenced what he did, like the infamous out of sequence sex scene that took place that took inspiration from Don't Look Now. Like, that's one of those things where I had never seen Don't Look Now, and I only saw it maybe in the last 3 or 5 years until Criterion just put it out in 4K, and it looks amazing, and it's a great movie. But it's one of those things where you learn something, and then it makes you want to go out and learn more, which is kind of like, I look at the best commentaries as attending a public library, where you find something that you're looking for, and then that leads you on to something else, and it becomes an Easter egg hunt of what can I learn from this source? What does this source teach me about that source? And it's the best are gateway drugs. They open up a world to you of cinema that you then can't turn down.
We're at that point now too, where the timeline is right, and we have certain directors that are out there that never went to a real film school, and many of them are directors that had physical media at home, that spent their time learning many of these things literally from commentaries and video tutorials and all the resources in the world on the internet. And with commentaries, I feel like we're at the point where we're going to start seeing this, weird nepotism in a way, where they're going to take what they've learned through commentaries and shave that down to the essential pieces and send that to the next era of filmmakers. And I'm excited to see what comes next, because there's such a different movement on the horizon for those indie filmmakers.
Yeah, like to go back a little bit, the one that really stuck out to me is listening to the Boogie Nights commentary with Paul Thomas Anderson, because that is the guy who did not go to film school, literally learned on the job. And he talks about listening to audio commentaries on Laserdisc, specifically talks about John Sturges and Bad Day at Black Rock, which unfortunately the track is not, the great Blu-ray that Warner Brothers put out. The track is not on there. That's done by somebody else, and I've been trying to track it down because I don't have a Laserdisc player. Who the hell has a laser? It's like saying I have an HD DVD player. It's like, well, how does that suit you in any way? Nobody has that stuff anymore, but I would love to track down that Laserdisc and learn what Paul Thomas Anderson learned, because clearly he learned a lot. Because if this guy did not go to film school and learn from films, look at his films. You cannot tell. There's the confidence of that guy that seems like it's somebody who trained every day for 5 years to make Hard Eight, but did not. He emerged fully formed, and it's one of those things like, yep, commentaries can do that for you. They really can.
Funny enough, I have a friend who is the proud owner of one of the 5 largest Laserdisc collections in the world. And he rips them, and I might be able to work something out for you.
Oh, that would be amazing. Oh my God, that'd be the coolest thing in the world.
I will be following up on that very, very soon, I promise.
Awesome.
There are so many things that are stuck on some of those old formats, especially some of those first round of commentary tracks, because of stupid licensing, as always. It's just something about it. We can't quite get everything on that next round of formats that we should. I mean, that's when you're passing down these classic films, it seems like everything, it should be a snowball effect. We should just be adding more every time rather than taking away. But unfortunately, we've lost a lot along the way.
Yeah, like the ones that I really want to find are the Laserdisc commentaries for the James Bond movies that did not get transferred over to the big the MGM box set that they put out that I love, but I'm still waiting for 4K Dr. No. MGM, come on, pay attention to this. You're watching. You hear me. But
yes, Jeff Bezos is watching.
There is somebody out there put up a list of all the commentaries of major films that did not get transferred over to the second round of physical media. And I have it somewhere. I can't remember where. And big on that list are the James Bond commentaries. And God, I wish I could find those, because that would be, I mean, watching those movies is like a film school on how to assemble an action sequence. So I would love to learn what these directors, a lot of whom started out as second unit directors or as stunt coordinators, I would love to learn what they brought to that film.
It's a good call. With the history that you've had now over the last couple of years with these, not to mention building on what you had already been listening to on commentaries, you've undoubtedly started to listen to some of the same people performing commentaries. So who are some of your favorites? Who do you think are some that do it better than others?
Well, the one person who is the greatest at audio commentaries is a person that I'm not necessarily sold on as a filmmaker anymore, but that would be Kevin Smith. I mean, listen to any of his podcasts, any of his 89 podcasts where he's stoned out of his mind, just completely rambling, free association, and making lucid sense the entire time. I have no idea how that's possible. But I've done 2 of his movies on One Track Mind. I did Mallrats and Dogma. Dogma being my favorite because at one point, everybody involved just stops talking about the movie and starts talking about the television that they're going to watch when they get home. And I believe it's Jason Lee who says that he's going to watch Malcolm in the Middle, and everybody gives him shit for it. And they're like, Malcolm in the Middle? What? That's crazy. I'm going to watch The Simpsons and then King of the Hill. It's like, we get it. You watch Fox. I understand. But it's one of those things where the first time I heard it, I was like, is this really happening? Am I actually listening to this? And now I've listened to that commentary 10 times. So every single time it's about to happen, I'm like, oh, this is the part where they stop talking about the movie. This is going to be great. And it is. It's great every time.
Kevin Smith is a joy to listen to. And one, the Mallrats commentary is probably the one that people know best just because they've shared their own experiences of listening to it the first time. But yeah, I'm always impressed just to hear the things that led to his choices. And sometimes it's literally just, oh yeah, we didn't know any better, so this is the choice we had to make at the time.
Yeah, we showed up at this set and there was one wall to look at, so we put the camera in front of the wall, we just stopped moving it, and there you go. That's the scene. Yep. It's like, well, thank you, Kevin. Actually, now I know what not to do whenever I make a movie. That's good.
That is a very indie Kevin Smith, of course, answering that question. Over the last couple of years, I'm sure that there's some that you've dove into this and had never seen the movie before. So what are some of the better films that you've discovered through the process of people choosing those commentaries?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think so far, I don't think we've actually had a movie yet that I hadn't seen.
Oh, interesting.
But in terms of having not listened to the commentary before, The Love Witch is definitely high up there. I'd seen the movie several times, did not actually listen to the commentary. Glad I did. And one that was really interesting to me was we did Last Action Hero, a track with that was recorded after John McTiernan got out of jail. So he's very reserved and he's very low key and spends the entire movie talking about what he doesn't think works about the movie as opposed to what he thinks does work. And the whole time I was listening, I was like, John, no, you're wrong. That's the best thing about the movie. The fact that it's this weird amalgam universe. That's like his friend is a talking cat that happens to be a detective. That's amazing. And John McTiernan is shitting all over it. And I'm like, no, dude, you made a good movie. Come on, I know I know you're feeling low. I know life has been dealing you a rough hand lately, but come on. Sure, it's no Die Hard. Okay. So what is? But it's one of those things where you just like it makes you connect with the film better because you're defending it when no one else will.
That's why we love it.
Exactly.
That's the big thing. Love that idea. So, gosh, you've seen so many movies. What about you as just a movie fan? Has that always been the case? How young were you when you first got into movies?
Well, the first movie I ever saw was The Little Mermaid when I was 3 years old. And I saw it in the theater. And by saw it in the theater, I mean I made it through the first 5 minutes. And then when the shark came on screen, I literally screamed, and ran from the theater. And did not watch it again until I was maybe 15. But I think it was when my family started getting VHSs and started showing them to me at a very early age. It was one of those things where I was bitten by the movie bug relatively early. And it was one of those things where when I was a little kid, that's the one thing I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a director. I didn't necessarily know what directors did. I just know that at the end of the credits, it would say directed by, and I would pay attention to that name. And I would say, well, I watched the movie, so basically the director's in charge of everything that's in the movie. Obviously, right. He's the director. And then it wasn't until kind of the birth of DVD, when then commentaries started to become more proliferated throughout the format. And I started learning, oh, that's what a composer does. That's what an associate producer does. That's what an assistant director does. It's this gumbo. It's this collection of influences and this collection of talents and expertise. And I started realizing more, I would not be a very good director, but I still enjoyed watching movies. That pleasure of cinema itself never went away, even if my ambitions to make it definitely receded.
One thing that I have appreciated from you so much over the last few months, and this is going to be such a small thing, I'm sure, but the random post on social media that'll be like, here's the next 2 weeks of One Track Mind, and it's all of the physical media of things that you're doing to study to be able to talk about things. And first off, I get excited because I get to hear thoughts on certain movies that I haven't heard somebody talk about in a long time, or haven't heard somebody discuss the commentary. But the other big thing is it just shows there are other people out there that care about this shit like I do.
Yeah.
And that, funny enough, through your show, that's one of the things that I've appreciated so much, because it validates my passion for things, and you can hear it through your voice and all the guests. So publicly, thank you for that part.
Oh, well, that's so sweet. Thank you. That's, I love, what I love about doing the podcast is that it requires homework.
Yeah.
When I was in school, homework was the least important thing to my life. I think that's why I had terrible grades, because like, fuck this. I go to school enough. That's enough. I do this 5 days a week. Give me some time to myself. And now it's like when I learn that somebody wants to do a movie and I have like a month, I go, okay, well, I have 6 movies I want to watch before I get to that. Yeah. And that's the most thrilling thing in the world for me, to look at a shelf and go, I now have an excuse to watch this through this. Oh my God, this is going to be great.
Yeah. You've had some great guests along the last couple of years, some people that I love, some people that I respect a hell of a lot. Who, if you were to tell somebody it's your first time listening to the podcast, go listen to these 3 episodes with these 3 guests first, what would you throw out there?
The first would be Fight Club with Mike White of the Projection Booth. One of my very favorite guests, a man who's done plenty of commentaries in his own life. If you've never heard the Arrow Video Dune track, outstanding. One of the greatest tracks I've ever heard. He also did The Last Starfighter, amazing. We talk about the commentary for Fight Club for about 3 minutes. And the rest of the movie, the rest of the episode, rather, is just us talking about what's really great? That the documentary on the Lord of the Rings disc, and it goes into such weird, different territory that I was not prepared for, and I loved every single second of it. And then somebody that you are friends with as well, Billy Ray Bruton. We did Rio Bravo, Howard Hawks' Rio Bravo. which I had watched 3 days before I asked him, so what do you want to do? And he just randomly said, yeah, Rio Bravo. I'm just like, okay, I get to watch it again? Again in 3 days? That's amazing. Yes, absolutely. And then I'll promote one that hasn't come out yet, but is really going to be fun for people who enjoy the show, and that is my Reels of Justice co-host Ben Hassler wanted to do David Fincher's Zodiac. And it gave me a reason to watch a 3-hour director's cut twice, because there's two commentaries, then watched the 90-minute documentary, then watched the other 90-minute documentary in which they explain everything that's in the movie that is bullshit and everything in the movie that is true. And so I did 7 hours of homework for one 35-minute episode, and I'm so glad that he picked it, because it gave me an excuse to watch all that stuff.
Well, you brought up Reels of Justice. Why don't we tell everybody what that show is? Because that's a completely different thing.
Yes, absolutely. So Reels of Justice is a very unique podcast. It is a fake movie court where we have a prosecutor, a defender, a judge, and a jury, and we swap roles every episode. The guest is always the prosecutor or defender. And we try to conclude whether or not a movie is guilty of being a bad movie. And lately, I've been very bitter on the show because we've been forced to watch terrible movies. Like when we do our annual our Shocktober, if you will, our horror movies in October, we literally did 7 episodes. And the one that I liked the most, I gave a gentleman's 5 out of 10. So I have been getting very, very bitter throughout this this new run of episodes. But just to say, the next episode we're recording, it'll drop after this drops, but it'll be Twilight, and I'm already mad that I have to watch it again without riff tracks.
So, how, for anybody that hasn't heard it, how's it work? Like, how does the individual come on and prosecute a bad film?
Well, we just have we have them write a thesis statement to kind of kick things off, and then it depends if the guest is prosecuting or defending, but the prosecutor goes first in any case. So that gives the defender an opportunity to rebut any statements that they make and give a little back and forth. And then once the prosecutor is through with their main arguments, then we turn it over to the defender. And I gotta say, as somebody who has defended and prosecuted several times, defense is the job you want. Because prosecution needs to lead the entire conversation, and if you know me, and you know how little I like talking, I do not like to lead the conversation. I love to be the one that says, no, actually, but this is why it's great. I love being the positive one, which I haven't been able to be in a while, and yeah. So if anybody ever wants to be on the show, first of all, reach out to me. I will definitely put a word in for you, but always pick defense. Always pick a movie that you like as opposed to one that you don't like, because the prosecution, the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution, as we say every week. Trust me, it is harder than it seems.
But I will say it's one of the best conceits for movie podcasts, because there are thousands, as I'm literally about to launch another one. Like the amount of movie podcasts out there are so vast that they can literally have somebody of the most wild taste, and there's probably a show out there perfectly tailored for you. And this one, I mean, the construction of arguments on the fly is always the fun part, because it's part improv, but also part this person has been watching this movie since they were 8 years old, and they're trying to bottle in some of that passion while also making it coherent, and that's always fun to listen to.
Yeah, I think our best episodes turn out to be the ones with people who are writers on the subject. Like we've had several people from Film Threat, Lori Kitka, our dear friend Bouncin' Bobby Lapierre, Brad Gibson. But a lot of our best episodes are people who are comedians by nature, so they're definitely improvisers for sure. And that instinct to kick in and say, "No, you're the one who's wrong," that really comes in handy with improvisers, and I think those turn out to be our best episodes.
I have tried to tell people about Reels of Justice so many times that don't like listicle types of episodes. because it's kind of like the perfect polar opposite to that. You get the same sort of feeling with focusing on one film in just the most silly of ways.
And the most important thing about the show is that we don't like dunking on a movie 100%. The whole point of having a defense is that even if the movie is seemingly indefensible, we want to give the people who do love it a chance to have a voice. And to show that this is not a binary. This is not a good, bad, 100% to 0%. There's a 30 in there. There's a 40 in there. Yeah. And there is... No movie is 100% guilty of being a bad movie. It's just not possible. So no matter what, we have 4 people who are there week in, week out, and I think that we've actually learned a lot about the different values of a film throughout the fact that, because we've been doing this for, we're coming on 4 years now, and we have done more than 200 episodes. So I think that it's safe to say that we are no longer as priggish about things as we probably were when we started.
Oh man, I don't think I realized there were 200 episodes. That's wild.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Unfortunately, I don't have to edit it or record it or anything like that, so it's not a lot of work for me, but it's a lot of work for other people, and that's what's important.
All right. So one thing that I'd mentioned to you before setting up the recording, we talked about just kind of ranking some commentaries. Yes. So I would love to hear a top 5 commentaries from Ryan. Let's go through these. What do you got as number 5?
Number 5 for me is one of the most unusual tracks I've ever heard. And it's one of those things where when you hear the idea, it sounds insane. And then you watch it, or listen to it rather, in practice, and then you realize, oh, this is the most brilliant thing I've ever heard. And that is Steven Soderbergh's track for Schizopolis, the Criterion DVD.
I heard this one. Wow.
The great thing about it is that because this movie is so absolutely batshit out of its mind, Soderbergh sat down and said, I'm going to have a co-host on my commentary, and my co-host is going to be me. So he's literally playing 2 different people. One is Steven Soderbergh, one is an alternate Steven Soderbergh, and one is interrogating the other as to what about this movie makes sense, and the other one constantly just has to kind of like in repose kind of go, yeah, I got nothing. No, it's not. This movie doesn't make any sense. Huh. And it is such a strange idea in practice that in execution is made even better.
There's something about Soderbergh which I've been like harping on over the last couple months, kind of subconsciously, I think, because it just keeps randomly coming up. But he, as a filmmaker, has most filmmakers have eras. They go through like moods in their filmography, but this is a guy that has been kind of just hitting it out of the park the vast majority of his career, and he goes through so many different genres. It's hard to even pin down an era. And so, just like you, like I love listening to what he has to say on everything because he has something interesting to say.
I mean, this is a guy he's a one-man band. He does literally everything himself. He's the director, he's the cinematographer, he's often rewriting the scripts once they're finished. He's occasionally been a composer. Like he is a jack of all trades and a self-taught jack of all trades. Like this is a guy who did not go to school to become a cinematographer and yet has become one of the most compelling cinematographers that we have working today. And he's doing it at the same time as he's trying to manage a tone for a film. He's getting the visuals in there, he's getting the sonics in there, he's getting everything in there. And he has been my favorite director since I was, I want to say, 16 or 17 years old.
Oh, wow.
And that has not gone away because he's impossible to peg down. Like lately he's been in, to use the eras, he's now in his streaming era where he basically puts out a movie and a half a year. And it's just, it's like, sure, I shot a movie on my phone for Netflix. And I shot this movie in secret in 20 days, and now it's on HBO Max. It's one of those things where it's just like, he is such a font of creativity that he needs a direct delivery system to help get his word out there. So it's like, that's the one reason I'm kind of grateful for streaming, is that it gives people who no longer really have it in them to make a theatrical release and go through the muck of it. I love the fact that it gives people like him a chance to have complete creative freedom and to still make the movies that he would be making if this was 20 years ago.
And this is after he's retired once.
Yes,
by
retired, and then said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make 2 seasons of a television series. And everybody's like, Steven, that's not what retired means. And now he's just back, and he's just like, yeah, so I'm back. What are you going to do about it? There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, you wanted another Magic Mike movie? Boom. There you go. It's out there. Done.
What a career, man.
All
right. Number 4, sir.
Number 4, this is a fun one. I've been planning on doing it on One Track Mind, but I don't know if I'll ever actually get around to it. It depends on the guests. But that is Roger Ebert's track on Casablanca. One of the great masterpieces of American cinema. It's one of those movies where Ebert says flat out, because he also did as I mentioned earlier, the Citizen Kane track that we did an episode on. And he has maintained that Citizen Kane is the greatest movie of all time, which I second, but that Casablanca is his favorite movie of all time. And I just love that there's a delineation between the two, that we can acknowledge a film as being the best, well as it's not your most favorite. It's one of those things where when I first heard that track and I heard him make that differentiation, I was like, oh my God, that unlocks so much. That means so much. The fact that we can all collectively acknowledge that something is the best, while at the same time acknowledging that something means more to us. And I absolutely adore that.
That is an important delineation that needs to happen after, the top 100 list of the year comes out, or after, let's do the every 10 years list where everybody's freaking out now about Jean Diamant. That sort of thing. People do not understand the difference between objectivity and subjectivity at all. Ever.
Right.
Ever. All right. That's a good pick, and I've never listened to that track. How about number 3?
Number 3 is a great, this is a conceptual track, just like Steven Soderbergh's Schizopolis, and that is Trey Parker and Matt Stone's Cannibal the Musical. Here's what's fun about this track. You learn a lot about the movie, which is a pretty fun movie, but the cool thing about it is they start drinking when the commentary starts, and an hour in, they get so drunk that they mess up the recording equipment, and it goes silent for 2.5 minutes. Then it comes back, and they're clearly scrambling, like, oh shit, what did we do? What did we do? Oh god, okay. Oh, we fixed it. Okay, what? Hey man, I love you, man. You're the best. You're the greatest. We did this movie for Trauma, man. It was great. Yeah, okay. I love you. No, you're fun. No, you're great. That's the entire It's smart, funny people getting gradually drunk over the course of 90 minutes is my way of describing entertainment.
I, funny enough, just talked about Cannibal the Musical a couple days ago, and I'm hoping somebody gives that some sort of really nice boutique upgrade, because that would be a great release to see.
Vinegar Syndrome, if you're out there, if you're listening, this is up your alley. You guys would love this.
I have a feeling they might already be working on it. I mean, all the Trauma titles they've been doing, it would be perfect for them.
That'd be so great. Oh my god. And then we got to get Terror Firmer out there, and just, we got to get the whole Trauma catalog. Yeah.
Absolutely. I still can't believe we're getting some of those on 4K.
Yeah, Toxic Avenger in 4K. Isn't that insane? Oh my god,
looks
that's
amazing
great.
too.
Oh, I can't wait to watch them. Oh, it's so great.
All right. Number 2.
Number 2, Cameron Crowe's Untitled, the almost famous bootleg cut. I purchased this DVD for $40 in the year 2001 at a local record store. And I love the fact that because this is a movie about a guy who loves his mom, and he records the track with his real mom, Alice Crowe, and she spends the entire time saying, oh no, this didn't happen the way that this happened in the film. She even criticizes Frances McDormand for not wearing shoes in a scene, saying, Frances, I would never go barefoot in my house. It's literally 3 hours of a guy and his mom just litigating the past, and his mom kind of sitting there watching the movie going, I can't believe I let him become I can't believe I let him become a music critic when he was 13 years old. I can't believe I did this. But clearly it worked out because the guy's now he bought a zoo, but before he was a pretty promising filmmaker.
How good is Almost Famous? Like,
that's my favorite Cameron Crowe movie. Especially the untitled cut is amazing. It is literally every single moment feels observed, even if he made something up. It fits in with the rest of the story so well that I've adored that ever since I saw it in the theater. I can't imagine watching anything but the director's cut now, though. It's so good.
It's a hell of a journey, and for somebody that I spent a handful of years in the music industry helping with radio stations and bands and shit, and just watching that. I mean, there's so many random stories out there that we'll never hear, and that is devastating just to know what is lost to time.
Yeah.
All right. Crowning achievement. Best commentary, in your opinion.
Okay, this is going to be interesting for people who have not listened to the podcast. And I strongly suggest that you pause this and go listen to the first episode, because this is the one. This is the commentary that made me want to make this podcast in the first place. And that is the Criterion DVD commentary for Armageddon, which is, mark my words, a terrible film. I will stake my reputation on this. A terrible, terrible movie. And Michael Bay is possibly, allegedly, a very bad person. But this commentary is Michael Bay laying out his aesthetic, laying out his reasons for making movies. And it turns out a lot of it is materialistic and capitalistic and definitely morally ambiguous. Like, anytime like a miniature comes up on screen, he goes, yeah, we paid $35,000 for that miniature, and by the way, my watch looks amazing. I can't believe I only got it for $40,000. That's right, I spent more on my watch than I did on this miniature. I'm amazing. I'm Michael Bay. It's such a good track, and you have Ben Affleck sitting there completely mocking whatever's going on. Like, when Billy Bob Thornton is on screen, he just goes, I like them French fried potatoes. It's one of those things where it's if anybody shits on Ben Affleck, I go, the Armageddon track, let us not forget, saves that whole thing. Because then Bruce Willis shows up and just mumbles. It's kind of like, thank you for showing up, Bruce. I appreciate it.
Oh man, yeah, that's a good list. I don't think I've heard the Armageddon track since, it's probably been almost 20 years at this point. That movie is it's so odd that it's in the Criterion Collection, first of all, but it's one that it's got its crazy defenders, but the movie's just a mess.
Yeah, it's but also to put this out there, The Rock is also on Criterion. So, just in case you think that they're snobs, I don't know, they put The Rock out there.
Well, I mean, we've had so many allusions to physical media. Other than Criterion, is there any labels that you love more than others that you seem to be buying from a lot lately?
Arrow Video lately has been really knocking it out of the park, especially with 4K. Like, there are some transfers out there. Their Argento movies look amazing. Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Deep Red looks like it was made 5 years ago. It looks amazing. Of course, the movies that I mentioned earlier that Mike White did the commentaries for, Dune, Last Starfighter. Let's see, what else? I'm trying to think.
Did you pick up the Conan film?
Not yet.
Films
it is on
this year?
It is on my watch list, but hopefully I will be getting to that soon. Not that I ever want to watch Conan the Destroyer again, but I would love to see Barbarian in 4K. Oh my god!
And the commentary on that is a classic.
Yes, just Arnold Schwarzenegger going, "Look at the camel. What a camel that is." John Milius just like, "Yes, Arnold, that is a camel. By the way, I love guns."
What you know what? That's a kind of a perfect way to end this. Any other upcoming episodes that you got coming up that you want to promote?
Yeah, actually, one that is dropping this Tuesday, so this episode will probably be out after it. But we just did First Man, Damien Chazelle's greatest film, First Man, with In Session Films' J.D. Duran. And that is a movie that means the world to him, and he actually explains very emotionally what that project means to him. And it was a great experience to actually, I got to experience somebody else's experience, and that's such a wonderful welcome thing that I'm so glad that I do this podcast, because I get to meet people and then I get to learn about them, and I get to learn about them through the one thing that I enjoy more than anything: talking about movies.
That right there is the catchphrase of all of that. So, well said. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really hope everybody checks out all the links in the description. Reels of Justice, of course, but One Track Mind. That's why I love Ryan. Go check out all of the random episodes that you can find. Not only films that you've seen or have listened to the commentaries, spread your boundaries a little bit. Go check out things that you've never seen before, because there might be some minor spoilers here and there, but it's worth it to hear the discussion on some of these. And you've got great guests. Like, that's one of the big things, is pretty much every single episode you've got somebody that I'm like, well, damn, yeah, I really want to hear them talk about this.
Yeah, I've never sat down and listened to somebody start talking and go, oh, I made a mistake. That has not happened yet. I'm sure it'll happen eventually. When I get into year 15 of this show, eventually I'll find somebody that doesn't say anything interesting. But so far, every single time somebody has started speaking, I'm like, okay, this was a smart thing. Yeah, this is a good idea.
Well, again, subscribe to Ryan's shows. Links in the description. Ryan, thank you so much for doing this, and we'll see you next time.
All right.
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and I, we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Dev Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.
Thank you for listening to the Disconnected Podcast. There's one big thing that you could do to help the show, and that is to leave a rating and review on the podcast service of your choice. Thank you.
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and I, we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Dev Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.